This is live at TEDx Beacon Street. We're right here at WGBH studio. I'm Shelley Zhang, and this is Ben Mezrich.
Ben Mezrich, hi, how are you?
Good, how are you? So I know I've talked with you 2 years ago.
You did, yes.
Yeah, so that was when you talked about the woolly mammoths.
Right, and George Church and his making a woolly mammoth in his lab.
And your dedication of staying there for a year in
I
in our
spent
lab.
a year hanging out with George,
Yeah, but this time it's another fun story. And, maybe you can share a little bit more about what you wish you could have time to share on the stage.
Sure, so I have a new book, it's called Bitcoin Billionaires, and it's the true story of the Winklevoss twins and how they went from being the bad guys in the social network to suddenly being worth billions of dollars in this crazy new form of money. And so I followed them around for the last year since I saw you, basically, and learned about Bitcoin, about cryptocurrencies, and about how they've continued their battle with Zuckerberg, which never seems to end in this new world.
Yeah, especially even naming convention per se.
Yeah, so Mark Zuckerberg launches Libra, and the Winklevoss twins launch Gemini. So it's like, it just won't stop, right?
I see. And also, I guess, in terms of your personal, story development, does your story always come from someone send you an email?
Yeah, so I would say 90% of my books have started with some random person on Twitter or email or my website just shooting me an idea and saying, come meet with me. And I look through them. Most of them are not something you want to get involved with, but every now and then I get an email that intrigues me and I dive into it and I spend time with the people and it turns into something. So that's how my movie 21 started, basically randomly ran in someone in a bar who told me their story. The Social Network started with a random email. This one started, I just saw a headline in the Times that said Winklevoss twins are the first Bitcoin billionaires. Kind of blew my mind, so I just started hanging out with them. But yeah, it always kind of starts that way.
I see. Cool.
Yeah.
And apparently you mentioned you are a parent, right? So
I have 2 little kids, and they're 7 and 9. And I also write a children's series with my wife, Tanya. The book is called Charlie Numbers and the Woolly Mammoth, and it's out right now, and it's about George Church's lab, but it's aimed towards middle grade children.
I see. Interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess if you could give any, say, inspiration for the future generation, if they want to be a great storyteller just like you, then what would you give?
Well, that's a great question. I think it starts with being intrigued by reading. You have to read a lot, but also look for great stories. Find great characters that really you think can be compelling to everybody, and then hang out with them, learn about them.
I see.
And you have to have a lot of confidence to be a writer, so believe in yourself, believe in your abilities, and don't worry when people reject you. So the key to this business is getting over rejection, because you will get rejection after rejection after rejection. I got 190 rejection slips before I sold my first book.
I see.
So there's always this wall you've got to get past.
I see.
Yeah.
So believe in yourself.
Believe in yourself, but also believe everyone else is wrong.
I see.
That's the key.
I think that's kind of the spirit I felt in other speakers as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people talking about how, they come out in their life out of some, probably some tragedy or some unfortunate, but they believe in themselves.
It all starts there, because if you're not behind you, no one else is going to be behind you, right?
That's right.
So you've really got to start there,
That's right.
Yeah.
I don't mean to, ask you to tell any of your future secret projects, but maybe you can share a little bit of your future plans.
So I'm right now a producer and writer on the TV show Billions on Showtime. So I wrote an episode for the next season, and so I've been in the writer's room over there. So if you watch the show Billions, you'll notice some of my themes in the series. It's a phenomenal show with really incredible writers, and I was very lucky to work on that. And I'm working on the movie for Bitcoin Billionaires now, so we're going to turn it into a big movie.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I look forward to talking with you in 2 years.
Hopefully I'll have another talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone.
You've changed the vector of society by telling these stories. What is the magic behind picking the ones that you've picked?
Yeah, so it's tricky. My goal every time is to tell a story that hasn't already been told, to tell it like a movie or like a thriller, and it's got to be compelling enough that on an international stage it makes headlines. So that's tricky. People pitch me stories all the time. I get emails or Twitter. It's a continuous pitching process, and I look through them, and even if it's just a great story, it's not enough. It has to be a great story that's also a moment in history. So I always loved Michael Crichton. I was a huge fan of Crichton, and he always was able to pick
He's
a
like
topic.
an MD too, or something.
Yeah, he would pick a topic, and it would suddenly be the topic we were all talking about. And I think that's what I'm always looking for when I go out there.
So there's a triopoly. I don't know if you got the memo. Like Amazon, Google, Facebook, they like own a big part of society. Have you followed that a little bit?
About how they're
just they're big. They're
they're
like
big
a utility.
companies. I've heard of these companies. Yeah.
not so long ago, those companies could do no wrong. People
Right.
were like, they're making our lives better. And now I think people are kind of worried that Silicon Valley has a veneer on some issues, and that we've opened up a few Pandora's boxes.
Right.
Do you feel, are you moved to kind of tell that side of the story? Because I feel like you're telling the story that people are excited to hear.
Yeah.
But
I will say,
yeah.
I think, with the social network, we definitely showed Zuckerberg as who he really was.
Yeah.
He was still someone that we rooted for because he was the
Yeah.
hero of that movie.
Yeah.
But all of his flaws are encapsulated in that story. And I don't think anything that's happened with Facebook since surprises anybody who really watched that movie.
Yeah.
Because this was a guy who really didn't care about the people around him and didn't really care about people who consider themselves his friends.
Yeah.
It was all about succeeding bigger and bigger and bigger, taking over the world with this idea.
Yeah.
And I think, yes, the sheen is off on these companies. We don't love these unicorns like we used to.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
outsized personalities are not people that we worship anymore. Now we're seeing them being torn down one after another.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a different time period right now. It's people are much more concerned about the power of these companies than
Yeah.
they used to be.
Yeah.
And we always should have been. But it all happened so quickly. I mean, the strangest thing was watching Zuckerberg in front of the Congress.
Yeah.
These people had no idea what they were asking him.
It was more embarrassing on how out of touch they were.
Right, because
than-
it's
yeah.
happened so quickly,
Just
and
assume they're going to be prepped.
Right,
It's like
but they
John
just-
McCain asking about those internets. I mean,
right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's a very difficult time in that the people in power don't understand these companies.
So let me ask you. So I know a guy. I was in studio art with him in high school who went on to be the CFO for Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And I know another guy who's still there. He took him public. Another guy who's still there is like the head of analytics.
Mm-hmm.
We roomed together. And I said, what do you think of the social network? Because these are people
Right, who
that
were in there,
breathe
yeah.
the same oxygen.
Right.
We're on conference calls and making big decisions. And they both said, that's not exactly the Mark we know.
Right.
And how much is that people don't want to admit to this? How much is it that we're just getting a caricature in the way literature kind of tells these stories that we're so fascinated by?
Right.
And how much of attention is there for you to kind of get this right?
Well, I would say that the Mark they know is not the Mark who was a Harvard sophomore.
Yeah, he
So,
grew up fast.
The story I told was this first year of Facebook. Eduardo, Mark, the Winklevi, all at a Harvard
Parker.
setting, Sean Parker.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very true telling of that first year.
Yeah.
Now, Mark would disagree,
Yeah.
and Mark feels very strongly that.
I
But I
noticed
think
$100 million got dropped into the Trenton
Right,
school system.
Newark, wasn't it? Or
I
Newark
think
or
right
Trenton?
when the
Right.
movie came
Oh,
out.
yeah.
And I
No,
can't
Mark was
imagine
battling, right.
that those were two independent things.
Right. I mean, I think that there is definitely truth in that Mark has changed since those years. I don't know if he's changed for the better,
Yeah.
but he's definitely changed,
Yeah.
and he's become more in control, more corporate, and there's all these people around him. I think Sheryl Sandberg is very smart,
Yeah.
although they've made a lot of mistakes. But I do think the social network is very accurate
Yeah.
in the setting it was for that first year. Yeah.
So I know John Hirschstack, he spoke here.
Yeah.
The geneticist, biologist
George Church.
George Church spoke. We had him in the Tapir exhibit. So we've had some of the people you've written about. I love the woolly mammoth. What's next? What are you mining for in the future?
Yeah, well, I'm actually looking for my next book right
yeah,
now, so send one my way
Yeah.
if you hear of the next big thing. I'm working on the television show Billions.
Yeah.
I'm a producer and writer for Billions right
Yeah.
now.
What
So,
season is that
Season
now?
5.
Season
so
5,
I wrote
yeah.
one of the episodes this season, and
Yeah.
I helped out in the writer's room for the past 9 weeks or so. So I'm involved in television a lot. We're working on the movie for Bitcoin billionaires,
Yeah.
but I don't have my next big book yet.
So in terms
I'm
of Billions,
looking.
I'm now a venture capitalist.
Yeah,
and I raised 110 million, and we have a
Fantastic.
incubator, and we're building direct-to-consumer companies. And I feel like I had to watch Billions just to be
Yeah.
able to, even
How far
be
did
able
you
to
get?
joke.
You got to watch all the way through season 4.
I watched to the end of season 4.
Oh, good. So you're ready for my episode.
Yeah, I did think the latest season it's gone into weird territory. That
I think you're gonna really
I couldn't
like-
believe. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
based on the first 2
Right,
seasons, I'm
right.
like, bullshit. Like,
I
these
think
are
you're
like,
going to like season 5 a lot. I
But
do.
the first 2, the tension was
I mean, insane.
incredible.
And I think the characters are great. The actors are phenomenal.
Yeah.
I've had a chance to spend time with them all on set and everything, and it's a really good show. The creators are geniuses, Brian and David. And I just
Yeah.
think it's
So how is that show? So you as a journalist, how do you think that show has shaped the consciousness? Has
Well,
impacted
I think it's-
that industry?
it's definitely showing us something that appeals about that world.
Yeah.
I mean, Axe, as bad as he is,
Yeah.
we love.
Yeah.
And it's this whole corporate world that kind of throws back to the 80s a little bit.
Yeah,
But I think
Bonfire
it's...
of the Vanities,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
that kind of feel
So
to it.
so there was Howard Ludnick,
Howard Ludnick, yeah.
and there's someone else, Point 72.
Yeah, I don't know.
So those are two people who told me that Axe was based on
Yeah,
them.
I think
don't
a
know
lot
if
of people
either is
think...
true.
I don't, I don't know the answer.
And
I'd have to
both
ask
of
Brian
them,
and David.
we were kind of talking about, should they speak at one of my events?
Yeah.
And it never happened. But I wonder if there's like
People
this
have said
imposter
Steve
syndrome.
Cohen. People have said, there's been a fair... I think there's a group of people that could
Steve
probably
Cohen
say
is the
it.
Point 72
Yeah,
guy.
I think that Steve Cohen would probably, to me, be the most accurate.
See, Ludnick,
Yeah.
the company,
Yeah,
Tanner
yeah.
Fitzgerald,
Right.
were in the building.
Right.
So,
So I do think that story is probably based on that.
Yeah. So they took a little.
And they would both be great speakers.
Yeah.
If
So
Steve
if you-
Cohen would speak,
yeah.
it would be.
So if you were
he
to
never
do,
speaks.
So look, you have carte blanche. If you got a speaker you think we should put on stage, I got connections.
If Steve Cohen wants to talk to me too,
Yeah.
tell him to give me a call.
Yeah, well, I know his handlers who were asking
He'll never
if he
tell
could
the
speak.
real story.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: what Boston story do you think should be told? And
Wow.
are you trying to mine Boston? Because
I am.
Like,
So I think that the school scandal is a good Boston
Yeah.
story.
is it the Varsity Blues? No,
Yeah,
which school?
yeah. I think if you had one of the prosecutors,
Yeah.
I think that would be really cool. How they put
Yeah.
that case together, how they took it down.
So I went to high school with the guy who was the head of that law firm.
Oh, really?
That had to step down.
Oh,
He was on
yeah.
my
So
swim
I know the
team.
victims. The person I want to get to is the guy who started it all.
Yeah.
Like I think his story
what
would
a
be one
shady
I would tell.
character.
Oh yeah, I'd love
Yeah.
to tell his story though.
Yeah.
So if you get to him,
Yeah,
he's,
but that's
he's in
not a
jail.
Boston story. I mean, I guess it's
Well,
a
it
Boston
is.
story because it was tried at the federal court.
It's all taking place here, yeah. So it is kind of a Boston story. I think that's a great story locally. I don't know. I mean, obviously, Deval Patrick would be great. Elizabeth
He
Warren,
responds to my
any of these
emails.
people.
I have a feeling he's not going to respond now.
Yeah,
but,
right. He's a little busy right now.
Yeah. All right. So let me ask you this: you did your UFO talk.
Yes.
You got interviewed by Scott Kirshner at my event.
Oh, that's right, yep.
You did the woolly mammoth talk.
Yep.
And now this. So you've given more talks in the history of my event than anyone else.
4 is the winner now.
I think so. Yes.
Oh, fantastic! I got to keep that up. I got to keep that up.
Yeah.
For anyone.
What,
I don't know what
do
I'm
you
gonna
make
do
of
next
this
year.
community, and how do you want to contribute? Do you have characters that you've collected in your life? Do you have people that you don't even know, but you know of, that you think we should put on stage?
Yeah, let me think about it. I mean,
Yeah.
I definitely people
'cause
come
you're a
through my life.
stakeholder, yeah.
People come through my life that would be interesting characters to be
Yeah.
up here. So
Yeah.
I will definitely.
And maybe we could stealthily put someone up who you want to write a book about.
Yeah,
We
and
don't
then
tell
get
them,
them, and
and
then-
you could be in the room as they're pitching their talk, and you could decide, yay or
Yeah.
nay.
Let me think
This
about
could be
it.
a reality
I will think
TV
of
show to
people-
see which books you do
Yeah,
next.
I'll think about it. Are you going to continue at this venue here? Do you think?
Yeah, yeah. So this is what we're doing. We're here annually for this November event. We're going to do Boston Medical on January 7th. Then in May, I'm going to do PTC in the Seaport District. Like that's the innovation, and they just built this. They're in the top floor of like one of the marquee
So
buildings.
Boston Medical, you're going to do all medical related?
I wanted to do St. Elsewhere like talks, like kind of gritty.
Oh, you got to get my brother.
Yeah.
So,
And then
my
I'm
brother
gonna-
wrote a book about transplant. He's the head liver kidney transplant surgeon. He wrote
Love to have
book
it.
called From Death to Life.
Love.
And it's about.
Let's do that.
Yeah, he'd
Done.
be a good
Locked
speaker.
in right here on camera.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do the Ether Dome.
Oh.
So I got two. I got St. Elsewhere, and then I got Ether Dome.
Oh, cool.
Type talks, and then we're gonna do a House of Correction. We're gonna do
Wow.
Rich Miner's house.
Wow.
We're gonna like show up at his house
And
because
do
he
talk.
invented
Right,
Android and
right,
mobile.
right.
And you know what I want to do is I want you to curate a bunch of talks and
Wow.
do a Ben Mezrich day.
We'll try. Yeah.
No,
yeah.
like, I mean,
Yeah,
we talked
yeah,
a little
yeah.
bit about this.
Yeah.
It could be all the interesting people that you've written about,
And have them all come in.
and maybe some of the supporting characters.
It would
or,
be fun
or
to have the
people you didn't
characters
even
come
put in the book.
Well, Jeff Ma does a great talk. I don't know if you know him, the guy from 21. So
Yeah.
the real MIT blackjack
Yeah,
kid.
yeah.
He has a good talk. Get the Winklevi twins in
All
and
right,
be a home
all
run.
right, yeah.
All right.
Let's
Thank
do
you,
it.
man.
Hey,
Sounds
thank you.
good. All right.